This is Earth, our home. Ever since the start of Industrial Revolution in the early 1800s, CO2 emissions have increased more and more over the last 200 years. Just in the last 10 years alone, the world has produced more CO2 emissions than in 160 years since Industrial Revolution began, and this is increasing at an alarming rate. The Earth is experiencing a phenomenon known as climate change. Climate change is defined as a long-term change in the overall global temperature that has permanent effects in the environment. The main causes of climate change are the use of fossil fuel, which is our main emitter of CO2, deforestation, which is limiting our ability to absorb CO2 from the atmosphere, and having increasingly intensive agriculture, which are releasing large amounts of methane and nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. So how are these gases affecting the Earth? As the sun rays hit the Earth's surface, the Earth absorbs some of that energy. The rest of the energy gets radiated back into space, but most of it gets trapped in our atmosphere due to greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are natural to the planet and are actually a good thing to have to help regulate temperature, but too much of them can have devastating consequences, causing more heat to get trapped, which makes the Earth warm up even more. A warmer climate means it affects ecosystem around the world. The oceans, this slight increase in global temperature creates known as ocean acidification. Occurs when CO2 interacts with the salt water unable to adapt to the new environment. Marine species start to die off because of the increased acidity in the ocean. The major problem because more than 1 billion people depend on marine life. Warming oceans comes the melting of the polar ice caps. According to the study done by NASA, the overall loss of ice in the 2010s was around 475 billion tons. This is 6 times greater than the 81 billion tons lost in the 1990s. Scientists are predicting a global sea level rise of about 53 centimeters by the year 2100. This will have massive impacts on the 400 million people living in the coastal region. What can we do to limit the effects of climate change? We can transition from using fossil fuels to more renewable resources like solar, wind, hydro, and nuclear power. Today, vehicles contribute to 75% of transport emission, which equates to about 6 billion tons of CO2 a year. If we replace everything with electric vehicles, this will not only reduce CO2 vehicles for the future. To limit the effects of deforestation, we must crack down on logging companies destroying our forests around the world. We can build them back up by planting more trees using less paper and recycling. Deforestation contributes to about 20% of all carbon emissions worldwide. It can easily be reduced if we just take an action. The waste that are produced by agriculture adds around 200 tons of methane and nitrous oxide to the atmosphere every year. Although it's less, methane is 28 times more powerful of trapping heat than CO2. To limit the emission of the gas, we can take action by converting into energy, eating less meat, and supporting organic farming. As we move toward alternatives that are less impactful to the environment, these changes will slow and hopefully eliminate climate change altogether.